Well, hello everyone. I am Matt Williamson. How's everyone doing this fine day? Happy Easter weekend coming up, all that. Hope you get to see your friends and fam and whatnot this weekend. It is pretty much officially draft season. Yes, there will be more moves. I still think there could be a big Steeler move on the horizon between now and the draft. But for now, everyone's back from the owners' meetings, including myself, starting to hunker down with drafts and pro days and visits, which is what we're going to talk about today. But real quick, I just wanted to tell you, if you hadn't listened to yesterday's show, I urge you to greatly. It was a very, very deep dive just in the current state of the Steelers center position. And a lot of you guys are asking me about the centers all the time. I think I addressed every angle, to say the least. So please go check that out. Check me out on YouTube at Williamson NFL. That's going well. It's a great place to chat with you guys as well, too. Okay, speaking of owners' meetings, several folks told me, and this isn't like a secret because it's going to come out and it'll be public knowledge too, but it was basically along the lines of, hey, Matt, the Steelers visits that they set up are going to get pretty redundant. You're going to see some pretty serious trends here. Like, get used to seeing guys that do this at this position. And so I'm like, well, all right, it's still early in the process. We got a long time between now and day one of the draft, or until, visits conclude. So I figured, let's pull up a list. I mean, I had a pretty good idea and see exactly what we're talking about there. What are these trends that that I'm expecting to see? So there's one outlier here. There's a running back, Dejan Johnson from Washington, who's a late round guy. He's a tough dude, high character, not real athletic, late round pick. Maybe he'd be in the mix late. I thought he was kind of an odd one to bring in. But anyway, other than that, they've had 9 visits so far that I've been able to find, concluded. 3 of them are wideouts. 3 of them are offensive tackles. 3 of them are interior defensive linemen. Yeah, there's a trend. And the information I heard is get used to it, because you're going to see a lot of the same type of dudes coming in and out of the building on the south side. So, it's important stuff. That doesn't mean that they will automatically draft from these lists. Sometimes you want to bring a guy in just because you still have questions. Like, if I only knew this about the player or how he was coached to run this route, I would then move him from a 3rd rounder to a 2nd rounder. Or there's a medical thing I just didn't get at the combine, or a background thing, or he's intriguing to me. I'd like to spend the whole day with that guy, So sometimes it's just that. Like, when you put your draft profiles together, you want to be able to check every box. You don't want to go into the draft going, man, I wish I still had that answer, especially for a guy that you're going to take in the top, 4 or 5 rounds. So sometimes that's the case. But back to the original point, the fact that it's 1/3 receivers, 1/3 tackles, 1/3 D tackles, and maybe that changes a little with, Lowry signing, but he's not a big enough signing to change what you're looking at, So I thought that was really telling. And I'll tell you guys about Bet Online, as we always do, and then I want to dig into those 9 names. So Bet Online continues to be your number one source for all your basketball wagering needs, including pro and college hoops throughout the year. With up-to-the-minute odds, stats, and trends, you can follow your favorite team's path to the playoffs with in-game live betting, contests, and all the best player props. Experience the world's best wagering platform anytime from your desktop or your mobile devices. Head to BetOnline today to become part of the team, and remember to use promo code BELIEVE, it's capital B, lowercase LEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. So let's start with these 3 receivers. They're all day 2 guys. It's Ricky Pearsall from Florida. It's Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky. And Xavier Leggett from South Carolina. Pearsall's a little different than those two. Well, they're all kind of a little different. And there's going to be all shapes and sizes here. Pearsall, to me, would be in the equation in round 2. Very good route runner. Better speed than given credit for. Better out of the slot, but versatile to do both. Catches everything. Some after the catch stuff there. Not as physically imposing as the other two. The other two are rocked up, strong guys that are hard to tackle. They may not be super elusive in terms of start, stop, wiggle, and things like that. But Malachi Corley gets comps to Deebo Samuel. Small school, again, Western Kentucky. And I warn you, there's like 2 receivers every year now that get comped to Deebo Samuel. And there hasn't been one since Deebo came out that have met those comps. So it's an easy comp because a big physical guy you get the football to. In Corley's case, sometimes behind the line of scrimmage. Break tackles, physical, nasty. But that's the style player he is. I'm not saying he can't be a good player, obviously. I like him a lot. He would be a day 2 guy. Hard for me to say, would he be there in the 3rd round? Is he worth the 2nd round? But he's in the neighborhood. And he does have some juice. There's no question about that. Xavier Leggett from South Carolina seems to be gaining a lot of steam. And his comps are A.J. Brown, who, again, comps are bonkers. I mean, who's this running back remind you of? Oh, Jim Brown. Or I heard somebody talking about, this wide receiver reminds me of a faster Larry Fitzgerald or a bigger Steve Smith. I'm like, well, then that guy should just go moonwalk into the Hall of Fame. But anyway, A.J. Brown's a top 5 receiver. Leggett's not as fluid as A.J. Brown. He's a little bit straight line-ish. But you get him the football, he runs people over in the secondary and takes it to the house. He's really rocked up. He's very fast in a straight line. And I mention A.J. Brown because Steelers offense coordinator spent a lot of time with A.J. Brown in Tennessee. So these 3 receivers imply to me they absolutely are going to use a premium pick on the position. Maybe even 2. Who knows how it stands now. I don't think that'll be the case when it's all said and done. Here are the tackles. Talisi Fuaga from Oregon State. Travis Glover from Georgia State. A name I'm sure you don't know, I would imagine. And I do a little homework on him. And Amarius Mims from Georgia. That's what you'd expect. Fuaga and Mims are right tackles that would be drafted much higher most years. I don't know if Fuaga will be there at 20. I think Mims likely will, and maybe you could even trade down 2 or 3 spots and still get, your bookend of Georgia tackles. I adore both these players. I would have no problem whatsoever using my 1st round pick on these guys, and frankly, that's how I think as I've been telling you guys for months, how the offseason should shake out. Glover's really interesting, though. I did more homework on him this morning. He looks like he hasn't been coached a lot. I mean, he's at Georgia State. He's got a funky stance. He could use his hands a little better. Okay, that stuff's coachable, but he is, much like those 2 that I just mentioned, body beautiful. I mean, he's 6'5", 332 with long arms, carries his weight very, very well. He's not a fat guy. He looks like a right tackle. Perfect size, well proportioned, great length. He's light enough on his feet, but maybe he ends up going to guard. You would coach him up probably for a year, but that's a really intriguing acquisition, maybe in the 5th round or something like that. Maybe it's the 4th. So those guys all add up. I mean, if the 3 of them walked past us right now, we'd be like, whoa. I mean, these dudes look the part. The other 3 are defensive linemen, and one of them's not quite like the other, and that's Braden Fisk from Florida State. This dude tested so well and brings so much energy to the field. He just is all over the place playmaker. But I have some concerns because he's got unusually short arms, and he'll get swallowed up by double teams and in the run game. Maybe he would just be like an interior designated pass rusher, spark guy, but people are talking about him going early 2nd round because of his testing and his film and his energy. he's not for me, but I understand why they would want to at least talk to him and get a grip on this guy. Because, boy, he is Sonic the Hedgehog out there, and I mean that in a good way. The other two are Darius Robinson from Missouri and Christian Boyd from Northern Iowa. I think we've had this conversation quite a bit. I have on other outlets for sure, but there aren't many. I don't think they're going to be in the nose tackle, market for right now. I think they'll be in the long levered Aaron Smith, Cam Hayward, Isaiah Loudermilk, ballpark. 6'4" plus, long arms, not a lot of fat on your body. Tack on another 10, 15 pounds of man strength when you get here. And I think that's what they should be after. But there aren't many of them in this draft. So if they don't emerge with one, I get it. And you have Lowry and okay. Christian Boyd, though, from Northern Iowa, is a mid-rounder that does fit that bill. I thought he did some good things at the Senior Bowl. I thought his get-off was really good for a tall, long limb type guy. I think he changes directions well. I think there's a lot to work with. Darius Robinson's going to be a higher pedigree guy, though. Like, he could sneak in the bottom of round one. I mean, he played a lot of edge at Missouri. He played a lot inside. He's body beautiful. He lit up the Senior Bowl, and there's a lot of buzz around Darius Robinson. He's sort of a one of one in this draft. And what I mean by that is he fits that mold that we talked about, can play all over the line of scrimmage, and is still a top 50-ish pick, if not higher, top 40-ish pick. How does that fit their equation? I don't know that it does, but I bet they're intrigued with him, and I bet their D-line coach is like, I'd love to have that guy. So that's what I got so far. It's early in this process. I do want to pay a lot of attention between now and then, and now and draft, to their visits. And from what I've been told and what we just went over, might be a lot of the same. So get used to that. Think about that for your Steelers draft prep. And over and out. Take care.